Okay, thank you all for joining today, and I'd like to introduce Gary Blome with BlueDot Solutions, who's going to start us with the webinar. Gary, please take it away.
I sure will. Thank you very much, Gary, and hello everyone, and hope everyone's doing well. I want to welcome you and thank you for joining us here for the 1-hour web conference to share with you some exciting features and functionality that we're delivering to Cyan Pickup and Delivery with integration to Infor distribution, specifically SXe and A+. This has been a release that's been a long time coming. I think the amount of time that has passed since our last release is probably a little bit out of our norm, but there are some unique things outside of just some new functionality that we're excited to show you here today as it relates to vehicle telematics and vehicle tracking. So we're excited to show you this. On the call with me is Randy Starr. Randy Starr is our Vice President of Technology, and some of you have had the chance to talk and meet Randy on different occasions, but Randy's going to be driving the demonstration, and he is obviously the gentleman that heads up a lot of this product innovation and new features and functionality that's driven into our products. So with that said, Randy, I'm going to pass it over to you and let you take it from here.
Thank you very much, Gary, and welcome everybody. Very excited to share with you some of the new features we've added to Cyan Pickup and Delivery and discuss with you some of the new opportunities to impact your business and make things better for your drivers. Just a quick little blurb about BlueDot. You know, as many of you know, we've been around for a long time. We're a global enterprise mobile software products and professional services company. We have been around, you know, for over 25 years now. We have a lot of customers throughout the world, a lot of people using software that we've written. We have over 30 customers that are using, you know, a prior version of our product for Infor distribution called Advanced Mobile, and a lot of them are using the current Cyan Proof of Delivery, and we have a few people who are using the new Cyan Pickup and Delivery. So this is the latest version that we're happy to share with you. Regarding Pickup and Delivery, you know, it does a lot of what Proof of Delivery did as well. You know, it really helps to automate a lot of the common tasks that a driver performs when they're doing deliveries. We also support pickups. There's some new functionality. I'm going to hold off before I tell you about that, but some new things that it also takes care of or supports. It is a very comprehensive piece of software. I think as we go through the demonstration and you see the configurability, you see the capabilities, you'll agree. Yet we've worked very, very hard to make it easy to use. The idea is like any piece of software that runs on your smartphone or your tablet, it's easy enough to use that you don't need a training manual. This particular product has been designed to be highly configurable. We have a lot of customers that have slightly different needs and requirements, and we've really tried to build a product that would allow them to dial it in and meet those needs and requirements without requiring software development. However, we are very proud to have an outstanding professional services group, and we know how difficult it is to find out-of-the-box software, the one-size-fits-all that meets all of your needs and requirements. So if you have unique needs and requirements that you don't see satisfied in this product, rest assured that we are capable of making changes to the product for you and making sure that it is a tailored fit, that it does exactly what you need it to do. The Cyan Pickup and Delivery application is designed to support both Android and iOS smartphones and tablets. It is fully integrated with Infor distribution products, specifically SXe and A+, as Gary mentioned. And you can really think about it as an electronic, you know, proof of delivery solution wrapped up in an enterprise mobile platform. Really comes with a lot of additional features and capabilities outside of simply the mobile application itself. We've mentioned a couple times now some new features, so let's do a quick overview of what some of those look like. The configurability is really important, and I do want to spend a little bit of time during today's demo to take you through some of the capabilities there. There's a lot of functionality that you can turn on or turn off, a lot of features of the software that you can tailor to meet your nomenclature, the kinds of naming conventions you use, things of that nature. We've really worked hard to improve the user experience and make the application nicer looking and even easier to use. We've worked a great deal on the workflow, really have enhanced it. We now have support for arrival and departure confirmations so that your drivers can indicate when they've arrived or when they've departed from a particular stop. Ultimately, that data becomes available to you in the back-end systems. We now support advanced OS&D or overage, shortage, and damage workflows. We can support pickups, and for those of you who regularly have to perform pickups, we have been able to support that in the past, but it was kind of a workaround. It was an interesting way of doing that, and this really makes that far, far easier for your drivers and far more intuitive. We also optionally support returns. So, different than pickups, if somebody needs to return product because it's damaged or they didn't order it or it's now out of season, we have the support for that. We also have an optional document scanning feature. We've long been able to take, pictures of documents and do a little processing on them. I think we've vastly improved how that works and some of the capabilities of that. So we're excited to share that with you as well. One of the big things we want to show you today, well, there's really two. One is the optional support for ALK Co-pilot navigation. So many of you have taken advantage of our capabilities that have long been a part of the proof of delivery product to use Google Maps or Apple Maps, whatever your default mapping provider is on your device, to have turn-by-turn navigation. We now support commercial turn-by-turn navigation through ALK Co-pilot. So if you want to include that for your drivers, it does honor, real truck routes and all of the, vehicle restrictions. You can have predefined routes that, will constantly try to reroute the driver back onto that predefined route. Some really nice functionality there. And lastly, we have this additional integration with GeoTab. So GeoTab is a leading vendor of vehicle telematics and fleet management solutions. They really specialize in providing HOS compliance, regulatory compliance, in-vehicle driver coaching, very accurate engine diagnostics, real-time vehicle tracking, fuel monitoring, and much, much more. So we have worked with GeoTab, and we have a nice integration there. We'll show you a couple of the neat features that we're able to do. And if you're interested, the GeoTab device is a very small, little, inobtrusive plug-in that goes into the OBD2 port on your vehicle, and that's pretty much all it takes for an install. And then they have a very nice dashboard that will show you some interesting information about your fleets and support that, that fleet management capability. So with that said, we've made it through the PowerPoint slides, and now we'll get into the actual demonstration of some software. So the first thing that I want to do is, show you the mobile application. And, this is the place where the driver is going to interact with the system, and that makes it a very, very important component of the overall solution, of course. So I'm going to log into the application, and like most smartphone applications, once the driver is logged in, it'll remember that driver, and it'll automatically log them in the future. If they care to log out, they can do that, and another driver can use the same device. So no worries there, but they don't have to constantly log back into that same application, especially when it's a device that is really dedicated to them. As we typically do in our software, we have 3 different tabs up on the top here. The inbox showing us all of our currently available stops, the different deliveries or pickups that we're going to perform. We have what we call the outbox that shows us any transactions that we've completed that are pending on the device and need to be sent to the server. That's an important feature because we support offline capabilities. That offline capability means that once your drivers have their stops to perform, they can do that whether they have network connectivity or not. This is a key requirement for enterprise software. So if you wind up ever looking at software that requires a network connection, rest assured that Murphy's Law will prevail and your drivers won't be able to use it when they really need to. Finally, the Sent tab shows those transactions that have been successfully sent to the back-end system. Those two tabs aren't that important from the driver's perspective other than to be aware of when something happens to exist there. Back to our inbox. Well, we don't have any stops available right now, so we need to take care of that. So we're going to go over to the web portal. And this is the Cyan web portal. Lots of different capabilities here. We do support roles, so with the right role, we can really clear up a lot of this and make it very, very simple for a dispatcher or a manager to use. But right up here, we have the pickup and delivery assignment screen. So we're going to go to that screen, and we can see that at the moment, we don't have any stops available to assign to our driver. So we need to take care of that. And we're going to do that by uploading some data. Now this is where the integration into SXe and A+ comes into play. We use the set file integration that is built into those products by Infor, and those set files are basically just placed in a directory that we have FTP access to. So we'll use a secure FTP access, we'll pull those set files out, process them, and they will appear here in this assignment screen. Alternatively, if you wanted to do just a very simple conference room pilot or demonstration of this software, we support a data upload capability. So I'm going to go back to the dashboard. I'm going to select the pickup and delivery data upload, and that'll give me a screen that allows me to upload basically an Excel spreadsheet, a CSV file, comma separated value file that has the appropriate data in it, and it'll work just like that integration into SX or A+. So I am going to select the sample data here, and right before I actually import this, I want to show you one additional feature. We talked about the GeoTab integration. Now, one of the features that we currently have for this GeoTab integration is the ability to automate the arrival and departure confirmations. Now, I haven't shown you that yet, so I'm jumping ahead just a smidge, but an important element of doing that is to create zones or geofences within the GeoTab system. And if I go up here to this web page, I'm going to cancel out of here for a second, and I go up to the GeoTab dashboard. So there's lots of great functionality, and I'm not going to do a demonstration of all of the capabilities of GeoTab today, but they have what are called zones. And what we want to see here is a list of zones. These will be the geofences that represent the different stops. We've automated the process of creating these zones when we do the import and processing of this stop data to be assigned. So I'm going to go back to the Cyan portal. Again, I'm going to select that data sheet. I'm going to hit upload, and it's going to upload that data and process it just like it would a set file into its constituent stops. These are the ship-tos, the customer and location combinations that are unique in that set of deliveries that need to be performed. So if I go over to the dashboard now and I select the pickup and delivery assignment, we're going to see that we now have a number of stops in there. And if I sort this by scheduled date, we'll see we have a stop at customer 1, customer 2. We have a fuel stop. So the Cyan Pickup and Delivery solution does support additional stop types. It doesn't have to be one that you're going to perform a pickup or delivery at. It might be a rest stop. It might be a fuel stop. But you can get those stops incorporated, which is particularly useful if you're doing some form of route optimization. Okay, so I have my stops, and now I want to go back over to GeoTab, And I'm going to do a quick refresh here, and we should see a number of zones that have also been created. So here's my customer 1, customer 2, customer 3, customer 4, and fuel stop corresponding to the stops that we have created within Cyan. And if I go to the map view here and just zoom out a little bit, we can see the different stops and the fuel stop. And of course, one of the big features of GeoTab is the ability to track vehicles. So I'm going to go ahead and select a vehicle, and now we can see that we have a vehicle on the map, and in fact it's right at customer 1 right now. So this capability of tracking the vehicle and knowing when it enters and exits these zones is what allows us to automate that arrival and departure confirmation. So we'll get back to that in a moment. Let's go back here. We can see that all of these stops have been assigned to R star, and if I go back to my mobile software, we'll see that those stops are now there in my inbox. So I have stop 1 through to my fuel stop, then down to 3 and 4. We're all set to go. So let's take a quick look at how the workflow works for the driver at this point. So I'm going to go ahead at the moment and select the very first stop here. I see some stop details, some good information that was provided through SX or A+ about this particular customer and ship to location. I can see any inbound notes. I can see any contact information. We have some buttons here. So the first button is basically a navigation button, and if I click on that, it'll open up the default navigation client on that device. This happens to be Google Maps on this particular device, and so it's going to show a particular location, and it's going to give me the opportunity to do turn-by-turn navigation to get there. I don't really need a whole lot of help because at the moment I'm at that location. We do, as I mentioned before, also have the ability to support Co-pilot as commercial navigation, and that is a very nice, sophisticated piece of software that has offline maps, supports voice prompts, the whole 9 yards, and as I mentioned before, will honor vehicle restrictions and very important things to be considered regarding commercial vehicles and roads. Okay, we'll go back to our application here. Note also that I have some buttons down here. That's going to want to navigate me. We're going to go back to the buttons here, and I can create an email. If I have an email address for this contact, I can do text messaging if I have a phone number, or I can launch the dialer and call that particular individual. Once I'm finished with the stop details, I can proceed in the workflow by hitting the next button here. This gives me that arrival confirmation. Now, this is not the automated arrival confirmation that I'll show you in a moment. This is what it looks like if we do it manually. So here we have a confirmation and a confirm button that the driver will press to indicate that they've arrived at this particular stop. We also have configuration values that allow the driver to potentially change that date and time if they need to. Again, all of that is controlled through the configuration. So we're going to do the confirmation. Not only do we get that date timestamp when they confirmed it, but we also get a GPS location. So we can go back and look and verify that the driver is in fact where the driver said they were. Now we've come right to our list of orders. So we have 2 orders here. We have a red banner telling us that we haven't selected anything. I can go through and review the order details. I can scroll through it here. Notice that on each of these we have some items listed. So I have currently validated 0 of 3 items, and I can go ahead and select those items, and now I can scan particular items in order to check them off the list. So if this particular device supports barcode scanning, I could basically capture that value. Let's see here, 6533. It will give me a positive scan indication. A very different, sound will be heard if it's a negative scan. Basically somebody scanned a value that isn't in the list. Here we can see that, the quantity being delivered matches the quantity that was ordered. Again, that is all controlled through configurations. We can go change that if we need to. We have the ability to capture, specific notes about this item, photos about this item, documents, again, through that document scanning, and OS&D, or the overage, shortage, and damage. Well, let's take a look at what that looks like. Let's say that in this particular delivery, one of those items was significantly damaged. So instead of 12, I'm going to indicate that there are only 11 being delivered. Okay. Notice that now it has highlighted this, and it will require that I capture some OS&D information because my delivery does not match the ordered quantity. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and select that. It indicates that I have a partial shortage. My scheduled quantity was 12. My actual quantity is 11. That's all correct. I'm going to go ahead and save that. And we can support through the configurations additional information like requiring a photo. At this point, we might want to take a photo, and we might decide using the camera, that box looks really damaged and isn't something the customer is going to accept. We do that, and we see that we have, a photo associated to that particular item. Optionally, we can do document scanning. I'll go ahead and show that right now so that you see that. When we do document scanning, it works much the same way as photos or notes. We can add as many documents as we want. We have the opportunity to pick which type of document it is. This will become a part of the metadata for that document image, which is really important if you have document management software that you want to process these. It'll help with the indexing, make sure that it winds up in the right place. Let's say that in this case we've got a packing slip. I'll go ahead and hit add, and the software then is going to start looking for a document. And if I get up above my document here, it will automatically find that document, automatically capture an image. I didn't have to touch the screen. All I had to do is kind of aim on that document. And I can select OK, and we'll do some post-processing right there on the device to convert that to the appropriate format, to clean it up, and now we have a document image that's worthy of going into these document management systems. If I need to include additional pages, I can go ahead and do that as well. If I need to delete a page, I can go ahead and do that through a little remove button right up at the top here. So I can add another one. I do want to point out that, if the software can't find the document by itself right away, I can always go ahead and take a picture. So I actually press the trigger there, and then I have this ability to, crop it manually, and I can even, make sure that I can take care of any skewing or anything like that. So very nice piece of software to help facilitate that whole process. Much like the photos, we have a little badge down at the bottom indicating that we have a document. So let's go ahead and simply capture the rest of our items. I can do that by just simply selecting up here or scanning the other items. Anything that has been scanned will automatically default to the appropriate quantity. I'm going to go back in the list. Now I have one of my orders complete. Note that it says 3 of 3 on the items. I have an OS&D that I've captured. I can capture notes, photos, and documents and associate them to the order rather than just to a specific item. And down here below, we've got one more. I'm going to go ahead, just jump in there very quickly, select all 3. Now I have both orders selected. I'm going to move to the next step in the workflow, which allows me to capture a signature. So now I'll go ahead and sign as a happy customer. And I'm just using my fingertip to sign right there on the device. And we have that signature image with the name, the date, the time, and the order number stamped right in it. So everything's done. We've captured, 2 of 2 orders in this particular one. I'm going to indicate that it's finished, and now I have my departure confirmation. And when I'm ready to depart as a driver, I would hit confirm, and that closes that particular stop. So that stop, customer 1, is now gone. That data has been moved over to the outbox, and because we have an active network connection, it immediately went over here to, you can see the arrival, the completion of that stop, and the departure here in the sent box. Now going back up here to the web portal, I can go to a pickup and delivery summary screen, and I can actually see the results of all that data. Now, with the integration into SXe or A+, you would see that data there as well, right? So including the signature, but not including the photo or the document image. There isn't a place in those systems for that data. However, we are familiar with many, many different document management systems. Max Recall seems to be a very popular one in the distribution world, and we have implementations where we're integrating into those products and ensuring that those images become a part of your electronic record. But here we can see customer 1. We can see the signature that we captured. We can see the orders as well as any attachments. So here's the photo that we captured. Here's the document image that we captured. The other items that were a part of those orders. And then ultimately the stop status. So it's showing us arrivals and a departure. And again, it does show us, we do capture the lat long so we can actually see that on a map. And that is our office building. So that's a quick review of the manual workflow and doing a manual arrival confirmation and departure. Well, let's take a quick look at what happens if our vehicle moves from stop 1 over here, or customer 1 over here to customer 2. Now, I'm not going to have somebody go drive right at the moment, so I am going to simulate this a little bit. But basically, as that vehicle moves and enters that zone or geofence, a special notification is going to be pushed out to our device. So here we are, the driver's at the inbox. Previously we opened up that particular stop, but in this case, we have the ability to simply capture that through that push notification. And so automatically, GeoTab notifies Cyan that that vehicle has entered that particular zone. Cyan then sends a push notification down to the device, asking the driver to confirm if they've now arrived at customer 2. And if I, as a driver, say yes, it'll go ahead and process that entire arrival confirmation. It'll skip the customer info screen. It'll skip that workflow step, and it'll take us straight to order details. So now I'm sitting on my order details. I have a single order here with 3 items. I can go ahead and do the appropriate processing for those items. I can capture a signature. They're all happy customers, right? And I can go ahead and complete that. Now, right at the moment, we're still going to see that departure confirmation step because I haven't told the software not to show it. But at the same time, we do have the ability to capture, that departure automatically. and here we can confirm.
Turn right.
That is the navigation client talking to me, so let's go ahead and turn that off for a moment. Okay, so we've now confirmed that departure, and that particular stop is no longer in our list here. We're up for the fuel stop next. As we complete these stops, the actual zones will go away from GeoTab as well, and they would be created once again the next time a stop is assigned to that particular location. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about the configurability of this. Right now, when we look at the mobile software, we see that things are called stops. We see that we have, indicators for deliveries or pickups. When I first logged into the application, I put in a driver ID, but I did not have to enter a password. All of that kind of functionality and much, much more is controlled through a configuration setup. So if we go over here to the configuration, this allows you to really tailor the software to meet your desire, your needs. Here we do support something one level above. If we wanted to take a collection of stops and put them into a specific route, we can do that. And what we would see is a route with a little down arrow, and within it would be the collection of stops. I can show you that in a moment. And this level 1 corresponds to the name that we're going to use for that. So we could call it a set, or call it a route, or call it a trip, whatever's appropriate. Here, so far, we've called these stops, but maybe we want to call them ship to. Okay, we have our different badges. Maybe we want to have delivery listed as DLV. We had our orders and our items, and we could call these whatever we want. So, again, a lot of configurability throughout the system. These are the lookup lists that we're using. So the different, stop types, or now ship to types, notice because we changed it from stop to ship to. So, here's a fuel type if we wanted to add a new one and call it a rest stop. We can do that, and we can create these rest stops that aren't going to be performed, but they're going to be shown on the map, they're going to be shown in the list. Here's our order statuses, item statuses, return types. We haven't seen returns yet, we'll get to that. Document types that we saw and we selected from. A really interesting thing down here are the OS&Ds. So if we have OS&Ds, we have the ability to, indicate what we want to do here. Remember we did one that was a partial shortage, and we can come in for like damage, for example, and indicate that we want to show photos, show comments, and require photos. So if they want to add a note, they can. They have to add a photo. So now that will become a part of that particular configuration, and all of the devices that use this configuration, will honor that. We can adjust the workflow. So here we had our driver ID, but now if I want to require a password, I can do that, and we'll see that here in just a second. One final thing I want to show is that, let's get down here to allow a driver to add a return to the ship to. So now we're going to do an ad hoc return. So I'm going to go ahead and make that change. I'm also going to get rid of the arrival confirmation. So I'm going to count on, my integration with GeoTab, or perhaps it's a piece of data that I really am not interested in, so I'm not going to require that anymore, and we'll see that that'll go away. So I'm going to come down here, I'm going to save this configuration. Now I'm going to go back to the mobile device. I'm going to force a sync so that I don't have to wait for it. It will sync all by itself every minute, but I'm going to go ahead and force a sync. Allow it to retrieve that new data. Notice now, instead of saying stop, it says ship to. Okay. If we were to go into one of these, now it says DLV instead of D. And if we were to go into one of these, here's my ship to details. Remember, before we had the arrival confirmation, that step no longer happens because of that configuration change. And here I have a delivery order, but if I wanted to do a pickup, I could select right up here, or a return, I'm sorry, that I want to add a return, and now I can capture information about that. So what's my return type? It's a piece. What is the related order? We've automatically captured that. Here's my quantity. Here's my unit of measure, and I can indicate a size or weight if I want to. Save that, and now I've captured that return as a part of, this stop. So some really, interesting functionality goes well beyond, the original proof of delivery solution. There's a lot here that we could go through, but a limited amount of time today, and I do want to get back to being able to do some questions and answers. So let's go back for a moment. And let's go ahead and open up, the lines to questions and answers.
And we do have one question, but before we get to that, I just wanted to make a comment, Randy, and that is to say that I'm pretty impressed, because every time somebody does a live demo, I don't care if it's in person or on a webinar, something always goes wrong. And I didn't even see one single thing go wrong in the live demo, so I am pretty darn impressed. So Steve asked a question. Oh, you're welcome. Steve asked the question, in the scenario for customer one with the shortage, what is the effect into SXe? Can your application ship the order in SXe with the exception as a decrement to the ship quantity?
I don't believe so. I believe what happens in that case is, the data comes back indicating that the actual quantity was different than what was originally intended, and it does show up as an exception, but that exception has to be manually processed, I believe. I do not believe that SXe can automatically, indicate that that was a short shipment or anything like that. I do believe it takes some user intervention. I'm not an expert at SXe. I want to be very clear. I know mobile very, very well, and I know just enough about SXe to be slightly dangerous.
So it shows up as an exception in the BlueDot software in Cyan?
No, in SXe. It will make it back. That data will make it back into SXe, but it is something that has to be acted upon by a person before it can, basically be resolved.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that. I don't see any other questions, but we can wait for a second. And then if I was to purchase Cyan, talk to me about the integration process. How does that work?
Yeah, the integration's really straightforward. We are taking advantage of the OEE HD Import Export process that has long been a part of SXe, and a very similar import-export process was created many years ago for A+. Give me one moment here. I think I even have a screen of what this looks like. So, if you've ever seen a screen that looks like this in SXe, you have it enabled, right? And basically, this creates a flat file of data. So you're going to set up, you're going to configure this to do the appropriate type of export. When you reach the end of this process and you finish it, it's going to create what is called a set file, an SET file. It's a data file. And that data file is going to be placed, just on the file system, in your network environment. We need to have a secure FTP connection to that folder. only to that folder. We're not going to talk directly to SXe or A+. We're going to talk via secure FTP to that folder. We're going to see that a set file's there. We're going to pull it up into Cyan. Cyan will go ahead and do the appropriate data transformation. So it's going to look at that flat file and it's going to turn it into its constituent stops and orders and order items, all of that information, and then it's going to route that information to the appropriate driver's device. On the flip side, when the driver captures that information, including the signature, any photos, any document images, any changes they made to quantities or anything else, that data comes, back to Cyan. Cyan transforms that data into a file called a completed set file, or .cse file. And that file is then immediately written to that same folder location where this import-export process will go ahead and consume it. It'll pick it up, it'll take all of that data and apply it appropriately within SXe. It'll take the signature and it'll include that on your order screen. So, you will see, a signature with, all that embedded information in it within SXe. And as I mentioned, we can provide that signature image, any photos that were captured, and any documents that were scanned to a document management system where it can be, then applied to any invoicing that gets printed or anything else. Max Recall is a very common product that we've done integrations with in the distribution community.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, a couple more questions here. Pete asked the question. Oh, wait, sorry, hang tight. Don asked the question. Oh, you must have retracted it. Okay, so Pete asked the question, do you have the capability to do auto optimization and suggested route optimization?
That is a great question, and the answer is, it is coming. I demonstrated just a little bit, or kind of showed you and talked a little bit about our integration with ALK Co-pilot. That piece of software is a very interesting piece of software that really does support commercial navigation. There is a complete, back office side of that, and we are working with ALK Technologies right now to build out, map-based portal interface in Cyan that shows you where all your stops are on a map, and the ability to do route optimization, so that you can determine, based on your vehicle types, trailer types if necessary, weights, all of that kind of information, and you can decide whether you're trying to optimize for ETAs, making sure that the driver's getting through, the route as quickly as possible, or perhaps it's going to be fuel efficiency, or, you want the fewest number of drivers performing the most, stops that they possibly can. Whatever, the intended goal is, you'll be able to set that up, create those optimized routes, and then those routes will not only be honored in the application in terms of what we saw in the inbox. So let's go back here. Seeing that route order here, but also, if you use Co-pilot, the same route can be overlaid on that, and you can see, the route, and it'll force the driver to go, to each stop in the appropriate order.
Okay. Very good. Pete asked another question. Just want to confirm that the customer only needs to sign once if there are two separate orders being delivered to the customer at one stop.
And that is absolutely correct. When we were in the stop and we went to the orders page, and here we have an example of two different orders. If we wanted two different signatures, we can, select one, and then if we have the right configuration set up, we can go ahead and move to the signature capture screen, capture a signature for that one order. But if we want to capture, if we want to capture all of, one signature for all of them, and there could be 10 orders here with 100 order items. If we select them all and say next, we are only signing once. And that one signature will be applied to all orders, and you will have, if we had 10 orders, you would have 10 different signatures. It'd be the same signature, but it would have the appropriate order number in each one, even though the customer only had to sign it once.
Mm-hmm. I can imagine some customers would probably appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Okay, Steve asked another question too. He said, is there any integration to TWL? In a TWL warehouse, the order is actually shipped within TWL.
So our integration is, still through SXe, but it does honor, what TWL does. And so we do have a couple of customers who use TWL, and, if we need to put you in touch with someone who can describe exactly how that, works, but I will tell you that, the pickup and delivery solution will honor, interaction, will honor the data that is coming from TWL.
Okay. That is the end of the questions as we have them so far, so we can give it another minute and see if anybody has anything else. And then also I want to remind everybody, you can raise your hand if you want to ask a question directly. But other than that, it looks like we are pretty much done. So.
Well, I certainly want to thank everybody for, for their time today and participation. And, if you have additional questions, don't hesitate to let us know. Oh, don't know where my
thank you everyone, and Gary, we really appreciate you posting this to the TUG website YouTube video area, and if you could point us to that when you do that, that'd be great, because I've had several inquiries from people wanting to take a look at the recorded demo here.
Absolutely, you'll have that tomorrow, Gary. Thank you all. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you very much, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.